Tier 2. You're finally here, but are you ready for the next set of challenges that lie ahead? What's up friends, it's Livid here, back with a brand new Lost Ark video. Today we're diving in and breaking down everything that you need to know about the Road of Lament Abyssal Dungeon. When it comes to dungeon guides, we believe that in order for you to be successful, we need to keep things simple and straightforward. Roads up to each major fight will be talked about if there are particularly difficult mechanics. Otherwise, most of the focus will be simply on breaking down each boss's respective moveset and core fight mechanics to help you be as successful as possible. Now going into this Abyssal Dungeon, there is certainly a break from the difficulty of Hildebrandt Palace, but that doesn't mean it doesn't come with its own set of challenges, specifically a few cooperation-heavy mechanics. As always, we're here to go over everything, so that you could be as successful as possible in pre-made groups or even pickup groups. Now with that out of the way, each part of the dungeon will be broken into chapters below, so feel free to jump around to the section that you need. Nazan is the very first boss that you will encounter, and unlike most bosses, there are very few high damage attacks in his arsenal. Now of course a few doesn't mean none, and the one that does is directly related to a core fight mechanic, so we'll cover that one first. The attack pattern we're talking about here is called Carousel, and it has two possible variants that can occur at 8 and 4 HP bars. In both instances, it will begin with Nazan running toward the center of the map and creating a safe zone in the arena. Now variant 1 has the safe zone directly around him, covering the rest of the arena in pulsating blood that deals massive damage, almost always killing a player in seconds. Now when this mechanic happens, immediately move towards him and position yourself either directly in front or behind him. Once the mechanic begins, the boss will raise his hands and shoot lasers from them after a short delay. Here, you will need to pay attention to what direction he rotates, either clockwise or counterclockwise. Now if you get hit by these lasers, they will deal high damage and push you out of the safe zone, leading to almost instant death every time. The second variant has the area directly around the boss instead covered in that pulsating blood AoE. Now this time, the boss will mark players with a crosshair above their heads. When this happens, those players need to immediately run to separate corners of the arena. After a short delay, the boss will drop 2 separate AoE fields on each marked player, one after the other. Now right after the first field drops, players should immediately move clockwise so that the second AoE also drops on the outer edge of the arena, close to the first ones. Now the reason that you need to do this is after these 2 fields drop, the boss will once again raise his hands and fire those same lasers, rotating either clockwise or counterclockwise. If you do not place these fields on the outer edges, they will block your path, resulting in you, and very likely your team, dying. Now be warned, during either of these rotations, the boss can abruptly stop mid-rotation and change directions. If you see him pause, immediately start going the opposite direction. Now in terms of other general attacks that Nazan will employ, there are several distinct ones in total. Blood Clouds will probably be the most common attack that you'll see, and simply put, Nazan will cast small blood AoEs in random locations that stay around for a while before dissipating, dealing moderate damage to those caught inside. Another common and easily read ability is a large frontal conal attack. He'll raise his sword up after a short delay, slamming it down in front of him and dealing moderate damage and knockup in a 160-degree AoE in front of him. Magnetic fields are the same AoEs that Nazan will spawn on top of players during his Carousel variant. Now this time, however, he will just spawn 5 of them randomly around the arena. These will stun and push players back upon running into them. Now this next attack will feature several narrow line AoEs converging directly towards either the boss or a player. After a really short delay, several orbs will fire energy waves directly toward that central target, knocking players hit into the air. Now keeping with the theme of line attacks, Nazan can also slam his sword into the ground, sending a wider rift towards players. Now after a short delay, additional line attacks will form parallel to the initial attack, spreading outwards with each wave. These can also knock players into the air and deal moderate damage. A move that is quite annoying to keep up with is his spin charge. He will target a random player and dash around them while spinning. On the path behind him, he will spawn multiple orbs in a line that then shoot lasers out perpendicular to the direction that he traveled. If you're hit by his spin, you will get staggered and the following orb lasers will then knock you into the air. The last attack that you'll need to contend with is one that almost goes unnoticed amidst his other attacks. This is a slow, traveling orb that gets sent out in a random direction. Now as it's traveling, it will spew out additional orbs in random directions, all of which can stagger and deal damage. Now when AoEs and other attacks are on the field, this one can be slightly annoying to deal with. With that knowledge under your belt, all you need to do now is, as a group, stay calm, watch for the spinning AoE mechanic, and be sure to all head in different corners if you get targets above your head, and the rest of this fight should just fall into place. Now the final boss in this dungeon is Kyzra, and unlike the first boss, she has 3 core mechanics but only a few basic attack patterns. As usual, let's dive into the core mechanics first, starting with the one that can directly cause a team wipe. Now once the boss teleports to the center of the arena and begins sending out small shockwaves, you'll know the wipe mechanic has begun. Each player needs to take 3, 6, 9, and 12 o'clock positions around the map. This should be directly communicated in chat before this fight begins. Now the reason for this is that each player will need to grab specific orbs that grant you a buff. Now if you are stacked up in an area, there will not be enough orbs and you will wipe. After a short delay of shockwaves, Kyzra will begin emitting red and golden orbs. The red orbs travel quickly, while the golden orbs travel slowly. Every player needs to get hit by 3 of these golden orbs to receive the buff that's denoted by a golden glowing circle of light around them. Now if at any point you get hit by a red orb, that means you will need an additional golden orb to receive this buff. Every player must get these 3 stacks quickly before the boss stops emitting these orbs. Now once the orbs stop flying, large red orbs will begin spawning all across the map, slowly moving towards the boss. Now these can only be destroyed by the light circle that is around each player. Each player needs to keep to their section of the map and clear every red orb that shows up to prevent them from reaching the boss. Now if for whatever reason one player does not secure this buff, you can still complete this mechanic, but the 3 players with the buff now need to cover 1/3 of the arena instead of 1/4. The player who misses their buff should immediately ping to let the others know that they missed it. If any more than 1 player fails to obtain this buff, your group will not be able to clear this mechanic. Kyzra also has a stagger check, but this one generally won't outright wipe the party, but will deal extremely high damage if failed. The boss will begin to swing her sword and send shockwaves in cone-shaped areas that take up 1/4 of the map each. Now after each shockwave, she will rotate before sending out the next one. Your goal is to interrupt this mechanic before she finishes her 4th shockwave, since this will release a massive shockwave in all directions that deals high damage and knocks all players up into the air. Her last major mechanic is a teleport followed by a backstab, and this one, if anyone messes it up, will make DPSing for your melee party members more difficult. The boss will vanish, summoning random lightning strikes around the arena. After a short duration, she will reappear directly behind a random player and immediately try to backstab them. Have your dodges or mobility skills off cooldown to avoid this. Now if the boss backstabs someone successfully, she will surround herself with a red aura and become protected by a shield. The inside of the aura will now deal continuous high damage to everyone inside of it. Avoid this attack and the fight should carry on as normal. Now once you've gotten these mechanics under your belt, you'll just have to deal with 4 basic attacks. At any time, the boss will toss out her spinning sword, which will travel outwards just a bit before returning to the boss. Just before it returns, additional spinning AoEs will travel outward. These will deal moderate damage, but also stagger anyone hit by them continuously. Now Kyzra can also perform a quick sweeping attack with her sword that spawns 5 blood flares that travel back towards the boss. Each of these flares deal damage and stagger, and a player can be hit by all of these consecutively if too close to the boss when this attack goes out. The boss can also point her sword toward a target, and follow up quickly with a laser beam that can knock up and deal moderate damage to anyone in the path. The last attack, and the one I admittedly always get hit by, is her 2-hit combo attack. She will initially spin in a moderate AoE that pushes anyone close to her away from her. Immediately after, she will plunge her sword into the ground and summon spikes starting where the edge of her spin attack first occupied. Now here, you should either super armor through the pushback or immediately dodge away from her as soon as she hits you with her spin attack. Now this fight should be doable as long as your party is clear about the golden orb mechanic. If you pass that cooperation check, then the rest is just about good positioning and pumping that damage. Finishing this fight will grant you access to the next Abyssal Dungeon, the Forge of Fallen Pride. Now hopefully this guide helped you effectively tackle each encounter and boss that this dungeon had to throw at you. These are effectively raid mechanics, and things will only keep ramping up in difficulty from here. Anyways guys, you're now ready to tackle the Road of Lament, and one step closer to securing your first Tier 2 gear set. If you have any questions at all, be sure to leave us a comment below. We've been having a blast making Lost Ark content, and we love interacting with you all in the comments below. If you're on US East Regulus, or you want to join the largest Lost Ark guild in North America, we invite you to join Legacy Gaming. With now over 30 guilds across our entire community, and hundreds of people online every minute of every day. It's a great place to learn the ropes, meet new friends, and support the channel all in one fell swoop. So check out the link to our Discord below. Finally, if you guys like everything that we're doing here on the channel, and you want to support Legacy Gaming even more, you could do so by becoming a member. For just a couple bucks, you're helping Codiak and I achieve our dreams of becoming full-time content creators. Check out the join button below to learn more. My name is Livid, and from everyone here at Legacy Gaming, thanks for watching, and play on.